I'm gonna start this so people that are at home
That's fine, yeah, I
know
was
that
just letting you know there.
we're going. Yeah, let me just see who's coming in. Hi. And is that all right if I call you Marge? Or we call you Marge, my first name? Okay, so Marge, Gladys, and Betty. Wonderful. You can do it. Did we actually start?
I think we can, I just didn't know, I know they were kind of keeping track of
I
who
don't know
was
whether
able
she
to make it.
was checking,
I
to see who was
think,
coming
yeah,
in
she
first.
went out the door. I don't know where it went.
Oh, they're parking still. I didn't know if you were waiting on anybody, so we can go, we can start. In the white car right there, stepping out.
Let's see, stepping out. Yeah, it's our friend Gloria Domingo.
Oh. Well, we don't want to miss Gloria.
No, we don't. We want Gloria to come in and.
I will not. Not the best parking job, huh? It's okay.
Well, I'm usually pretty careful.
That's pretty
I'm
close.
making sure I stand within those lines, but there wasn't.
They're starting to get faded pretty well too.
Okay. Oh, my God. We usually.
Hi, Gloria.
Hello. Hi there.
All set. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, welcome. I actually should say thank you for welcoming us here because this is your senior center. So we are very happy to be here today. My name is Michelle Marva. I'm paramedic and firefighter at Solon Fire. And it's a Sergeant Courtney Perkins. All right. And what we're going to do today is kind of like an infomercial on what you'd like to do the next couple months, maybe throughout the next year and the years to come. And a little bit of history how this started. Unfortunately, this time last year, I was on injury leave. But when I came back to light duty, one of my first assignments was CPR and first aid class with Kathy and Jen. So as we're talking about how has COVID changed our classes and things at the senior center, because as most conversations last year, you really couldn't have a conversation about peanut butter without talking about COVID and how it's affected you. You know, maybe a shortage of peanut butter. But we talked about what's going on with the seniors. And if they're not coming to the center, how are they getting information? And what's going to happen, 6 months or little did we know, a year later, after you've missed out on some interaction, you've missed out on some physical activity, what does that now mean? And how is that going to change what we do? And my concern a lot was fall prevention and falls in our senior population. And good afternoon. Hi, I'm Michelle. This is Sergeant Perkins. Courtney.
Yeah, whatever you do.
Okay. And so we started talking. I said, you know what? I personally would like to get more involved with the seniors and talk about fall prevention and how to prevent some of these injuries and falls that we constantly go on with the fire department and EMS and the officers that are there to help us pick somebody up, maybe a slight slip, no injury, to a very severe fall that can change their life drastically due to the injury. And right away, Kathy, of course, is, oh, that'd be great. So I went back to the office and I started looking up fall prevention for seniors. And there was so much information out there, so many programs that were already established. So now I had to try to figure out, okay, what are we going to do in Solon? And one program I looked at was actually through what we call NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association. And they're the ones that make the safety codes that we follow as firefighters and businesses follow as far as sprinklers, alarm systems, and a lot of things. And not only did they focus on fall prevention for seniors, but fire safety for seniors. I said, gosh, if you're like, and technically seniors are 65 years old and older, all right? So we don't have any old people in here, but we might have some seniors, right? As old has nothing to do with a number, and none of you look old, and I hope you don't feel old, all right? But technically, above 65, that's when they really start keeping a lot of statistics, partially because it's a accepted retirement age, partially because Medicare benefits start, but there's a lot of statistics at 65 and up. So if you only read the statistics and you're 64 years old, you're probably going to be pretty nervous that, oh my gosh, I'm almost done. I'm going to start falling. I'm gonna have all these problems, and that doesn't have to be the case. All right, so fire safety is not just for the kids, all right, and we're gonna be talking a lot about that in October. So October's presentation is going to be a lot on fire safety, because that is actually Fire Prevention Month. All right, so when you're 5 years old, did anybody ever have Safety Town or fire safety education in school? Before your time. But if you have family that went to school here in Solon, I believe starting in 1969 or 1970, Safety Town started. And one of my favorite pictures, I'll bring in next month maybe, my graduation from Safety Town in Solon, in some year after that. And it's a great program, and we see those kids around 4 or 5 years old. And then we again go into the schools in 1st grade and 2nd grade, and I believe 4th grade, and then again in 8th grade, right? But some of us have never had anything other than don't play with matches, right? Or don't touch the hot stove. That might have been our fire safety education when we were kids. But maybe your child came home with one day and said, hey Mom, we're supposed to check the smoke detectors, and Mom, do we have a fire extinguisher? And, oh, Mom, we need a fire escape plan in the family meeting place. What the heck is all this? But those are things that, whether you're 5 years old, 45 years old, or 95 years old, can help you be safe. So it's a combination of preventing fires, knowing what to do in case of a fire, and helping your friends and your family as well. In September, it is, does anybody know what month September is, besides next month? We have like National Pie Day, we have Fire Prevention Month. Okay? September is Fall Prevention Month. All right? So that's probably when you see a lot of activities around here focused on fall prevention and safety awareness. And it's almost ironic that it's the beginning of fall. So it's the fall season, but falls happen all year long, right? It's not September, so we suddenly start falling down. Right? Gravity is around us every day. And from the time that you're 1 year old and you're able to you have enough strength to get yourself off of that bed, and actually as soon as you have the strength to roll over, you're at risk of falling off the bed. And that risk of falling doesn't end until you can no longer move. All right? And that might be at a young age, it might be at 102 when I can't get out of bed today. And if you can't roll, you can't fall. But if you can sit up in a chair, you're at risk for falling. If you can stand, you're at risk for falling. We're at risk for falling all the time as well. So it's not just when you hit 65, boom, you're going to fall. All right? Has anybody fallen in the last 6 months? I did not know that. All right, my fall was preventable. Was your fall preventable?
I've had multiple. Running around with kids and all, yeah.
Okay.
Baby preventable.
Okay, most falls can actually be prevented. All right, and there are pretty much 3 reasons that people fall, okay, regardless of age. One is your physical makeup of your body, including your strength, your balance, your vision, your sense of awareness in your surroundings, all right? Medications. So physiologically, physically, those are reasons why we fall. We just don't have the strength to fight gravity all the time. And especially if we come in contact with an obstacle that throws us off our balance. And now we have to right ourselves and maybe fall. Okay? We also have behaviors. All right? Behaviors such as wearing stiletto heels, right? And maybe we shouldn't. Yeah.
No.
I'm not going to ask if you wear stilettos. You probably
I'll answer that one,
You
no.
probably look great, but I'm not going there. All right, so we have behaviors. We have medications. We have alcohol. We have just doing some things you shouldn't do maybe. If your balance is off a little bit and you're still determined to climb the ladder and clean your gutters because you don't want to ask the neighbor to help you, all right, we have behaviors that we can change. They're not easy to change. But behaviors are easier to change than attitudes. And if we feel like we're helpless, we might not be able to change that, but we can change the behavior to help us find the resources and the help we need so that we can go do the fun things and enjoy the things that we want to do and we can do, and let somebody else clean the gutters and take the risk to fall. Right? The third reason people fall is because of their environment. Right? That can be anything from crooked sidewalks to steps that are uneven, lighting in the house being dim when the power goes out. All right, so those of you that lost power last night or possibly even today, right? Do you have flashlights? Do you have candles? Do you have some way to light your entryway coming in from outside and certainly around the stairs? All right? So there's a lot of things in our environment that we can adapt and make safer. And we're going to talk a lot about that next month. So those are pretty much the 3 reasons people fall. And they're not independent of each other. So it's not just physical, it's not just your environment, and it's not just your behavior. It's always a combination. It's like when you finally go to the doctor because you have an ache or a pain, or we pick you up with the squad, right? It's usually not because of one thing. It's not just because you hurt your elbow. It's because your blood pressure dropped, because you were too weak to, get to the refrigerator and get a beverage. You weren't eating right. So you're dehydrated, you're weak. Now you fell and had an injury. Oh, and by the way, I have this and this and this. And then it all works together. So some things we can change, and some things we can't. All right? Example of something that we can't change is just the fact that each year we get a little bit older, and there are some expected changes with age. Right? But we can slow some things down. We don't have to accept those changes right away. We have some control over it. Okay? So next month we're going to talk a lot about fall prevention and what to do about it. The next month will be fire. Throughout the year, though, we actually want this to be your program. So we're going to be asking you lots of questions. What do you want to learn about? What's something that you've never had instruction on, formal or informal? Like what to do, how to prevent fires, or what to do, how to use a fire extinguisher. Have you ever learned CPR and first aid?
It's been a number of years, but I did at one time. I knew, how to
Okay.
do it. I did take a class with Red Cross, but that's been many years ago.
Okay, and there's something, you don't have, you can help somebody with first aid and CPR whether you're 5 years old or 95 years old.
Okay.
All right, so there's no limitation on learning CPR and first aid. And it doesn't have to be a 4-hour class where you take a written test and you get on your knees and you're doing all these things. All right? So if you're interested in CPR or first aid instruction, we'll show you some tips and techniques on how you can help your family member, your spouse, and how you can share that with your children so that they can help you if you ever need it. All right? So we're going to ask a lot of feedback on what do you want to learn about throughout the year, because we really do want this to be your program. All right? Other than being an infomercial, there are some tips and techniques we want to share with you today, because we want you to have some information that you can use today and not just say, oh, that was a great ad, but now next month, I have to wait until next month to learn something. All right? Hopefully we can all learn something every day, and I know I have potential to learn. Right? I'm going to let Sergeant Perkins talk for a little bit, and we're going to talk about 3 things that you can help police and fire should we ever need to come to your house to help you. All right? I'm going to let him talk about some things first.
So similar to what Michelle said, this program is your program. So anything that you want to learn about, current crime trends or prevention techniques, we want to present that information to you and answer any questions that you may have. So throughout this program, and this is a partnership that Michelle and the firefighters wanted to work together with. So sometimes you'll see both of us. Sometimes you may just see a police officer and Michelle or another firefighter. So it's going to be a nice mix, and hopefully kind of keep it changed up here so that it doesn't become something that you become uninterested in. So please give us information of what you want to see, and we'll make sure we get that out to you. Some of the things that we as a police department think are important tips to tell you about. We'll talk about internet safety. So the internet is probably one of the greatest inventions we could ever come up with, right? But with that, there's also a lot of negative things that have happened, a lot of the fraud and scam things that happen online, people trying to get information and steal identity and all that other kind of stuff. So we'll talk about some of the tips and things to be careful of when you're on the internet browsing around or purchasing, or if you get an email or a message sent to you, how to be able to recognize that might be something that's dangerous, right? And what we always say is if you're unsure, give us a call, we'll come out and we'll help you to figure out if it's good or bad and how to get to the bottom of it. Phone scams are another thing that happens too. You'll have people that'll call you up and they'll be requesting information, different things. So we'll talk about some of the ways to identify that. Some of the other things is shopping safety. So this didn't happen in Solon, but it happened within the last number of weeks. These two gentlemen were working together to distract women, shoppers. So one would come up and maybe talk, hey, can you help me find this, that, or the other in a grocery store? And the partner was stealing purses, taking items out of purses. So even little things that may seem innocent, sometimes there's some people out there that just don't have the best intentions, right? So in this particular case, and they have not caught these two men yet, one was distracting and the other one was the actual thief himself, but they were working together. So, be very careful to keep your purse and your other items very secure to you and make sure that you always have them in sight. Because, like I said, there's some who are out there always looking for an opportunity to do something that's not good, right? So those are some of the things we'll talk about. Just in general, our home security. Do we have the proper locks? Do we have proper lighting, fencing, all those different things so that you don't become a victim, right? You want your property to be a safe place for you, right? And we don't want to give anybody an opportunity to come. So if they are going to come, we're going to make sure that we make that a very hard target, is what we like to call it. So that if somebody comes into your backyard and think that they're going to do something, they'll look and go, there's too many lights, maybe there's a camera, maybe this lock just looks too much for me to tackle, and I'm going to move on to somewhere else, right? And if we can get everyone in our community to harden their target, right, their home and their vehicle and their property, guess what? They'll just leave Solon completely, right? And we've done a pretty good job of that overall, but there's always new updates and more education that can be put out there to more people to make us safer, right? So those are some of the things that we're going to talk about. We will talk about driving safety. Driving safety is extremely important. It's been an unfortunate thing with the coronavirus as well. A lot more people are driving a lot faster. People saw that the roads were a little bit more open during the shutdown, and the nationwide trend was that with less cars on the road, people were driving faster, those who were out and about. So we'll talk about how to drive defensively so that you don't become involved in a car crash, right? And some of the little basic things, checking your mirrors to make sure everything's aligned and you can see the things you need to, so that you don't back into another car or something in a parking lot. So we'll talk about some of those things. Some other things which we've dealt with here in Solon over the last number of days, how to prepare for power outages and utility outages, right? Michelle mentioned it, if you're, who did I talk to? I talked to a resident, I think it was yesterday, who said their power was out for 11 hours earlier this week. That's a long time to go without lights. It's the warm temperature, so now you don't have your air conditioning units and things going. Food, right? So we'll talk about some of those things that we can do to get people prepared, because we already know there's going to be another outage at some point, right? As the storm weather starts to come and then we get into the winter, there's going to be more outages. So we want to make sure that you're safe and again that you can enjoy your home and enjoy your life all at the same time. And one of the last things we want to talk about is prescription drug safety, making sure that we're taking the right amounts, how to dispose of your prescription drugs. That is a very, very important thing. If they get into the wrong hands, whether it's a child or a criminal or anybody, right, if they get into the wrong hands, that could be a bad thing. And then just making sure that you're organized and taking a proper amount, not too much, not too little, just what the doctor ordered. So we'll talk about some of those different things. So, but we also want to know from you, is there anything that interests you that you'd like to hear from the police or from the fire department?
I think you've covered all.
That is a lot of stuff. I had to write this stuff down, so I'm going to forget. I just know I am. It's in here, but I'm going to forget. So I had to cheat off my little cheat sheet. But yeah, that is a lot of information. It really is.
I would be interested in knowing what to look for when a person is having a stroke.
Ooh, that's a very good. I'm going to have to give that one over to my counterpart here. But yes, and there's an acronym. I probably know most of the letters, but yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's one of them.
But I can't remember what they all
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't go by the acronym, but we can.
Oh, so yeah, she's got more professional terms. I'm an amateur, so I'm like, yeah, thinking about, yeah.
We can probably come up with some words and some symptoms to look for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're on a camera range, yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, no, that is a very good one. So yeah, we'll definitely take note of that because you're right. Just like Michelle said earlier, I mean, maybe you're not the actual person performing CPR, but you could be of great value when it comes to noticing those different things, calling 911, or even giving instructions because, you know, some people panic when that happens right in front of them. And maybe you're the calm presence that says, hey, relax, relax, this is what you need to do, this is how you do it. So yeah, it doesn't have to be the physical action of the compressions or even putting the wound on. Maybe it's the quick reminder to say, hey, you know, we need to sterilize that before we just put a bandage over it because they could get an infection. Oh, I didn't think of that, thank you. You know, so those are all things that, you know, you could be of great value. But it's, again, it's an education thing that we all need to partner and team up together, so.
Yeah, and I know a lot of times if I'm in a class, I never have a question during the class. And then on the way home, oh, I should have asked about this. And so I'm going to make sure you're welcome to send me an email. And I'll give you that address before we leave today. And if worst case scenarios, you don't know who should come in and talk to you about this or where you get the information, you have a lot of great resources here in Solon at the Senior Center. They are great. They know a lot of people, a lot of ins and outs. They've been doing this a lot longer than I have. All right. I think what some of our goals are with this program that we're developing is that we also want to be resources. Not just when you call 911 and it's the actual emergency going on, right? But beforehand. So preventing that emergency, but also some of the things we're going to talk about in just a minute. What can you do to make that day a little bit better? Or how can you help your neighbor when they're having their worst day? You know, how can you make that emergency a little bit less of an emergency for them or their family? All right. I think there's a fairly new term out there. And I just forgot it. Not social policing.
So,
Community policing.
community,
So, and does anybody know what that means? Because I don't know if I'll be able to describe it, but what I understand, it's basically taking care of each other. So not just relying on police, fire, or EMS when there's an emergency, but looking out for each other to look to see, hey, I noticed my neighbor hasn't picked up, used to be if they hadn't picked up their newspaper for a couple days, that was probably a telltale sign that something's probably wrong. Right? Who gets a daily newspaper anymore?
they don't even offer it anymore.
Yeah. So you can't just look across the street and say, oh, Judy hasn't picked up her paper for a couple days. I should call her or go over and see if she's okay. So some of those things we might have had before, we don't have now. Some of us have family members that we check on a regular basis. Right? Some of us have family members that call us every day to see how we're doing, or friends and family. The reverse 911, welfare checks here. Hey, are you okay? We haven't seen you at the senior center. I hope that they miss you when they don't see you.
Oh, they do.
Oh,
we got a call yesterday to go up and check on a young lady, and she called back before our officers got up there because she realized she just missed a call. And while we were driving up there, they called and said, oh, I'm okay. And I was actually on the phone with Ms. Hanson, and I was on hold, and she's like, I think she's calling in. I'm like, okay, yeah, let me know. And then she's, that's her, don't worry about it. So I told the officers, don't worry about it. But they notice when you're not here, so, and they'll call us, and we'll go and we'll check on you, and, the fire department, so, yeah.
And along with driving, some of those reasons I mentioned of why people fall, the physical, the behavioral, and the environment, also can affect how well you drive. All right? If you're having some vision problems, if you have problems turning your neck, and now you might be able to see that side view mirror, but maybe you really can't check that blind spot as well as you did before. Okay? Is there something going on physically that's putting you more at risk to have an accident? Again, regardless of age. Okay? And our environment, you have people that are driving very fast these days. The last 6 months, I've been more nervous driving than usual, and it's crazy.
This is the other problem, too.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes.
All the time.
Oh.
All the time, people are on their devices and are not paying attention. So, and that puts everyone at risk, so.
Okay, here comes my confession. I wasn't physically on my phone, but when I fell a few months ago, I was running, the mountain bike trails in the woods, And when my mother calls, I answer the phone. Because after you've answered the call that says, help, I'm on the floor and I can't get up, after you've had that phone call twice, you answer the phone every time your mother calls. Even if it's to say, I can't talk right now, but are you okay? All right, click. Well, I didn't have my phone in my hand, I had the earpiece on, so I'll just talk to her for a minute. So as I'm running, all of a sudden I lose track of my surroundings, I trip, and when she hears, ah,
Now she's worried, yeah.
well, I'm not so sure. She asked what that was. And, you know, after I get up, and of course, the first thing you do after you fall is you look around to see if anybody saw you, right? Okay, so nobody saw me. I said, oh, don't worry, Mom, that was just me falling in the woods. She said, okay, well, give me a call back later when you're done. And I said, okay, well, thanks, Mom, and by the way, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I wasn't physically looking at the phone, but I was still distracted. Was that fall preventable? Yeah. All I had to do was say, okay, Mom, I'm running, I'll call you back later. Okay, and then get back and continue on. All right. So it's not just older people that fall. It's not only people over 65. Any of us can fall and get distracted. It only takes a second. All right. So when we come to your house, we're going to get back to how you can help us help you. When you go home today, and how many of you live in an independent home versus an apartment or something? Okay. All right. And the goal is to live independently as long as you can. But should we ever need to come to your house, when you go home, I want you to take a look for your address as you're pulling into the driveway. Is that address something that we can see easily at night? So when you call 911, we look at the maps and we have GPS, but sometimes in the storms and the driving rain and some corner houses, the address is on the opposite road. So we can count houses and fire hydrants and, well, we think it's this one, but we really like to see that address. So can we see that address clearly from the road? Can you see it clearly from the road? And your friends and family, when they come visit you, when you get your packages from Amazon, can they find you easily?
Amazon finds everyone. They're great.
That and the car warranty folks.
Yeah, right.
You can't hide
For the
from
car you don't own anymore.
Right. So I want you to take a look at your address. And I know sometimes some of the older homes, especially on the ABC streets, have beautiful script writing of 5371, right, in black letters. And then at nighttime, the lights are out. All right. And eventually, the stickers on the mailbox, they fade and they fall off. And we all know Northeast Ohio winters, there's snow and there's salt, and then there's rain and there's more salt. So things don't last forever. So first thing you can do to help us help you, make sure we can find you easily. All right. Now once we get there, we talked about home security. Or Courtney mentioned home security. We don't recommend leaving a key underneath the floor mat or underneath that pretty little rocker planter, because where does everybody else look for a key? Right? Under the doormat and underneath that pretty little planter. All right? Unfortunately, a lot of us don't know our neighbors or may not trust them. It's not like growing up where you knew your neighbors, you knew their kids, possibly went to school with them. So we're in a community where you may not want to give your key to the neighbor. All right? Can't blame you for that. But do you have a family or a friend, nearby that you can give a spare key to? Is there a lockbox you can put on your door? Either with a combination code that that you set, usually 4 digits, right, that you can leave a spare key in there. Because if we come to your house for a medical alert or you call 911, but you can't get to the door to open it for us and you're by yourself, we have what we call a universal key. All right? Universal keys cause damage, so we really try not to use that. We will look around. We will try to find windows that are open, all right? And being the smaller person in the department, all right, I've gone through my share of windows, all right?
Yeah, windows are good too.
Yes.
But they should be locked though, so we shouldn't be able to get into them.
No, but if we need to, we will find our way in, all right, for an emergency. Something that Solon has now paired with the company, and I'm not endorsing any product, but just to let you know what's out there, If you do not like remembering combination codes, which are great because you can give your family and your friends that combination code, you can give that number to dispatch, and they can give it to us, through our computer system. So when we get there, we can open up that lockbox, get the key, and not cause any damage getting into your home. All right? New devices, if you go to businesses, and you'll see one outside here, usually a metal box by the door, has a red reflective piece of tape. So inside that box is usually keys that we need to get into the building at 2 o'clock in the morning, when the key holder for that company, lives in Parma or someplace else, and we need to get in and check for fire or any other problems, whatever alarm systems are going off. So we can get in there without causing any damage, we lock it up, and we leave. And that key is locked in each of our vehicles. So we actually have to put in a personal code to get that key out, to use on the box to get their keys out. So it's very secure system, and it's used by fire and police departments all over. These are residential Knox boxes. All right? One hangs over the door, and one you can attach to a post, a pillar, even out of sight, high or low, someplace where your friends, your family, and we can reach it. And it would have a special key, again, locked in our vehicles, that if we come to your house, we can take the key off of our secure pad in our vehicle, open this up, and now we can get a key to your house to get in and not cause any damage. All right? That's also a place where you can leave other information, maybe in emergency, call son, daughter, whoever you want us to call. Okay? So we have checking the addresses when you go home so we can find you. All right? You have a way for us to get in, whether it's a personal code of your own, and you can get some of those boxes at Home Depot or Lowe's, or the residential Knox boxes that are controlled by the fire department as far as the key. So there's two things you can do today, or start thinking about today, to kind of make things a little bit safer, a little bit easier for you, should you ever need us. Any questions on those?
Yeah, I do. I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you do in the case where we're in an apartment building where you come in from the outside and then there's a door before you can go into where the apartments are, and that door is locked? Now, how do you handle that situation?
Those are a little bit tougher. For us, once we get inside that first, I know Liberty Hills would be one example.
That's what I'm talking about.
We get into that first door into the vestibule, and depending on how the call comes in and how emergent it is, we can hit all the buttons, and hopefully somebody's going to answer. Yeah, somebody's going to answer, and we're going to announce the fire department or the paramedics. We need to come in.
I see.
Now, can anybody say that they're the fire department? Yes. All right. But if you called us, hopefully you're going to let us in. If you can't, again, that's what, if you're able to call 911, hopefully you can tell dispatch, my neighbor has a key, or if we need to, use our universal key, because you cannot get to the door, we will do that. All right? We will get to you if there's an emergency.
And we have a good relationship with a lot of our residential units like that, multi-residential units. So we can call the night shift on-call person, and they're usually really good about coming out urgently and letting us in.
Last couple times they've been there almost the same time we got there.
Yeah, we let them know, because I mean, we have a hard time, like we don't want to wait, you know what I mean? So we'll let them know as we're still coming, like, hey, we need somebody to meet us at this building with a key, just in case, and they'll open the door and everything, and then they'll leave so that we can, so, yeah, we got you taken care of.
So with that lockbox that you have, where you have the key to open it, where do you get that?
I have information for you that has either the website, you can order directly from them. I believe for this, in about $37.95, I believe for that one. For the same price, you can also get them at the fire department. So it's brand new to Solon, so we're going to be getting more of that information out on our website. But I will have information that has the phone number and the name of the fire inspector that's running that program. His name is Lieutenant Joe Eisenhuth. So I'll have a name and phone number. You can call him and say, I'm interested in either getting more information or purchasing one of these, or you can go directly to the website.
And so how do you know that that's what's on there? It's when you see it, when you come up to the...
Yes, these are brand new to Solon. So we just received our information about them this week, so we will recognize that. And also we will ask you or ask Lieutenant Eisenhuth, if he's aware of somebody putting one of those boxes up, you can also let dispatch know. And dispatch will say, the Knox box is on the garage door, or the Knox box is on the panel next to the front door. So we know where to look for that box, okay?
So I have a lockbox on my door, and I did have to call 911, and I said, I have a lockbox, and here's the code. They got to, and they're pounding on the door, and I thought, oh my gosh, and I was pretty sad. But I did get to the door, but that kind of upset me that I got the lockbox, I got it here at the senior center. So is there some way that you have a record of these, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not excusable, but that human error thing is something that, it's just, you know what I mean, like, so yes, it is in there, we have it, but if they don't tell us, or if they don't access that file within the computer, then sometimes we may never know. I mean, she mentioned that the universal key, I kicked in a gentleman's door who was laying on the ground screaming for help. He was in Liberty Hill, but he was in the condo area. I kicked in the door and started rushing, to give him aid, and then my dispatcher, like 5 minutes later, says, oh, there's a key outside. And I was furious with her. I was like, I need to know this now. Like, I have a person, I look in the window, they're screaming for help. I'm not gonna wait or assume, like, you're supposed to tell me that. It takes me usually a minute or two, with drive time to get to a place. I need to know that now. So they are getting better about some of those things, but yeah, human error still happens.
So are you saying that if I have this lockbox, that it would be registered with the fire department and police department?
So before we leave here today, I will take that information and I will make sure that my dispatcher has it so that it won't happen again.
See, and I
So they
assume-
should have it, yes.
I assume that it would be since I bought it from here, but I put the code in and I never told anybody. So there was like no way that you would have known that I had this lockbox. And so that was kind of a lockbox.
Yeah, I mean, if it never got to them, that could be something that, happened.
It's just that when I did call 911, I gave them the code.
Oh, so you told, okay, I see what you're saying. You told, so it wasn't in a file, but you told them as you were reporting it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something that they just, unfortunately, maybe didn't relay to us.
Yeah, depending on how soon they have that information, if you give it to them over the phone, they don't like to give security codes over the air because somebody else may hear that. And even though we're on a more secure channel right now, they typically would ask us to call dispatch for a security code if we need
Or
that.
put it on our computer screen. There are ways they can get us information.
And some of that we don't see on the computer screen as we're getting out of the trucks because we don't carry that computer with us to get more information. So unfortunately, it's a combination of keeping dispatch up to date with what the code would actually be and the location of the box, and then them have that information and able to get it to us in time. So I apologize that that did not work out for you. I'm glad you were able to get to the door. But yes, we can always contact us at the fire department. We can take your name and number information and talk to dispatch and make sure that that is in the computer system. And even if it's to the point where dispatch says, there's a Knox box or a lock box on the garage door, call if you don't see the information on your screen. Because again, they don't want to say that information over the air. So then we can call dispatch, on our phones and say, okay, we're here, what is the code? I've also been given the wrong code.
Yeah, and they are generally really good, from all perspectives. I mean, they do have a lot going on in their room as well, so. Yeah, there's always going to be a chance for human error or something didn't get communicated, updates and different things. But yeah, in general, we make it work. Like I said, wrong information, sometimes things do happen.
We'll do the best we can.
Yeah.
You do, I have no complaint.
Well, and if you do, that's okay too. We can't change anything or improve anything if we don't hear the complaints.
Yeah.
So be honest with us.
Yeah.
Okay?
I've seen a lockbox over the door, but that other one you had, that you should attach it someplace or?
Yeah, there would be a hole in the back to put like a screw and screw it into a wood frame. Or like I have a wooden pillar on my porch. So that way somebody coming up to the door, until they turn around, they're not going to see it.
Okay,
Because you may not want a Knox box or a lock box
right.
on your door. They're not pretty, but they're functional, right? Okay, sneakers versus stilettos.
Are
Okay,
that,
function versus style.
is that easy to remove, like for a person to steal it?
No, it would be very hard. They would have to have access to the inside of it. to be able to,
Okay.
yeah, because like she said, the attachments are locked, basically locked inside the box.
Yeah,
Right,
they-
I didn't know if they could steal that whole box though, that's not. open.
They can't get into the box without the key.
No, but if they could pry it off the.
Oh, no, it would be very difficult to do and take time. I mean, I don't wanna say it's impossible, because it is, but I mean, it would be very difficult for them to do. Because of the way it's built, they would have to literally sit there and destroy it, and by that time, guess who's gonna be looking at them?
Oh, I sure hope so.
We'll be watching, so.
So, and it's sealed all the way around, so even if they were able to somehow get this off of the building,
Still have a hard time
they
getting
still
into it.
can't get to the key inside.
And what we find a lot is thieves don't really work that hard. They don't. They don't. They look for open doors, open windows, things that are left laying about. We call them opportunity crimes more than anything else. I mean, there are the ones who they might smash a window or something, but those are really rare. And if they do, they smash the window because they saw something easy from there, you know what I mean? So a lot of times, people aren't messing with Knox boxes, they're not messing with, big, bolt locks and things like that, because it takes too much time, it's noisy, it might not be worth it. But if they can walk right up to your door and pull it open, then it's become really easy, and it doesn't detect as much because they just saw somebody walk into a house, they didn't think anything of it because they walked right in, versus somebody's got a pry bar or a flashlight or something. So that's a really good question. Yeah, you'll be generally fine with something like that, because it would be really hard for them to try to gain access to it.
Does that help?
Okay, I live in Carrington, and my neighbor across the hall from me is on oxygen. So the lights went out on her side, but not on my side. But anyway, she calls me, and she says, the lights are on in my oxygen. And she didn't want to use her little one. So I didn't know how to turn the tank on. She also has a tank in the closet that she used, rather than use her little small one.
Right.
And I didn't know how to, turn it on. So I ended up calling Solon police.
Okay.
And they came out, they said, all I have to do is take a screwdriver, just screw this off, Well, number one, I'm all excited, so I don't even really
Sure.
remember if it happens today, I wouldn't be able to help it without calling. But is there some kind of, you could like have a tank and show how to turn
That is
it?
a very good idea. That was very nice of you to help your neighbor out like that.
Well,
That's very good.
I want to say she's old, so am I.
We won't tell her you said that.
Yeah. Secret.
But as I said, we kind of like take care of each other, because her kids aren't in the building there, and she called me,
Yeah. No, that's really
That's
nice.
one of the reasons, like why I did, sign up for this.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Well, thanks for
Yeah.
being here, and again, I'm happy to hear when neighbors help each other.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just, my neighbors, they have a bonfire, and I wasn't invited, so I'm gonna call the fire department. Make friends with your neighbors, get invited to that bonfire, follow the regulations,
Yeah, please.
away from the building,
Yeah.
have your water source, have a pack of hot dogs, do it the right way. But your neighbors can be great resources, all right? And you can be great resources for each other. And sometimes we don't like to tell our family when we need help, all right? Just as kids don't want to listen to mom and dad, all right? Parents don't always like to listen to their kids, all right? And my mom has been here at the senior center before. She's since moved out of Solon, and I love her dearly. So she will be a prime example as we go through months and we talk about police and safety, and fire safety, and EMS, and certainly falls, okay, and what we can do to prevent them. Everything I say about my mother is totally out of respect and love. I was very blessed to have a wonderful family.
You're afraid she's
right?
watching, aren't you?
You know what, and I will never say anything that I haven't either talked with her about before, or will talk to her by 4 o'clock this afternoon, okay? Because I called her before and she did not answer, so
Uh-oh.
I need to find out. Usually she gets 3 strikes, and then I get in my car and go and say, Mom, why didn't you answer your phone? I wanted to make sure you weren't on the floor, And that's what you do, all right? But sometimes parents don't like to tell their children when they're having problems. And though I've joked around with my mom, I try not to joke anymore about well, don't worry, Mom, you fell twice, one more time, we're just gonna find a really good nursing home for you. All right? Totally joking, but I don't even joke about that anymore. Because what's one thing we don't usually want to happen? We don't want to have to go live in a facility with other people and not in our own home or with our own family, at the very least. So I've learned, it's not funny to say that. And as I get older, you kind of learn that sense of humor's changed, right? And now what might have been even a joke 10 years ago, if there's more of a possibility of that actually happening, it's not as funny. Right? So I'm trying to do more to help her avoid that situation. But my mother is one who has fallen, and one that does not like to listen to her daughter when I make suggestions. Right? But I can tell her something, and then her friend can tell her the same thing, and what do you think happens? Oh, Becky told me I should do this. Really? What a great idea, Mom. Wish I'd thought of that.
Use her as the middle person.
You know? She didn't want to move into a condo until she talked to enough people her own age that said, I wish we would have done this sooner. This is so much nicer. I don't have to worry about cutting the grass and doing these things. Oh, wish we had thought of that, Mom. You know? But we're all stubborn. And you don't get to be 80 years old without having a little bit of stubborn in your blood. All right? That's how you get there, and that's how you make it to 85 or 90 and a little bit more. All right? You also have to be careful. So we've talked about finding the addresses, how to get in, and now once we get in your home, if I can ask, does anybody live by themselves here? Okay, so if we come to your home, if you're not able to give us your medical information that we would need to know, you're on the floor, you need help, and you can't talk to us, or you can't, for some reason, you can't communicate with us what your medical history is. Do you have that information written down someplace that we can find easily? All right. And when we ask questions, I don't necessarily expect everybody to raise their hand or verbalize, because not everybody likes to do that, whether you're 6 years old in school or 86 in here, right? So the questions are just to get you thinking about some things. So when we come there and we start looking around for medical information, right? We don't necessarily just snoop around your house, but if we don't know what's going on with you, if we don't know that you have a pacemaker, or that you have a heart condition, or that you're diabetic, or that you're allergic to morphine, or some other medication that we may give you, we're kind of stuck. And we don't always have a family member there that can answer the questions, all right? And sometimes you may not be able to give that information to us for whatever reason, all right? A lot of times the officers, if they get there before we do, they're already looking around, and usually where the medications are, if nothing else, here's their meds. And there's a grocery bag full of medications that we'll look through. And sometimes those medications may actually be the cause of the problem. You know, too much of this medication, or this one's new, or this one was just refilled last week and it's empty. All right, so there's things we can find out from your medication, but the best thing to do is to actually have some medical information, hopefully on the refrigerator, or by your pill box, or by your bed, that either the officers or we can find easily. Right? And that would include medical history, your medications, allergies to medications, right? Perhaps your hospital of choice, whether it's University Hospitals or Cleveland Clinic. All right? Sometimes we're going to take you to the closest place because you need to get there right now. When it comes to heart attacks and strokes, you know, the expression time is money, we say time is muscle, and whether that muscle is your heart or your brain, a couple hours difference and sometimes 30 minutes difference can make a difference in the treatment that you receive and how effective it is. So the faster we can get you to the right place with the right information, the better care we can provide for you as well as the hospital. All right? So there are a lot of different ways you can do that. I know Cleveland Clinic has a form with a little pouch with magnets on it. Some people call it the file of life. They used to call it the vial of life because they put it in the pill box and in the refrigerator. All right? So we still look around the refrigerator. Sometimes we might look inside there. I did print out some kind of more like wallet size things. It'll give you still the same information. They are quite small. All right? Not all of us do well with small print. Okay? Not all of us can print small. but there are a lot of websites where you can get the medical information, or even the medical summary. Every time you go to the doctor, you come back with 5 sheets of paper, right? What happened today, what medications you're on, all of your problems that you've ever had for the last 10 years, all right? Even if you were seen for a stubbed toe in the afternoon, they give you all that information. Keep the most current one nearby and update it every once in a while. But perhaps add your family member that you want us to call.
Yeah, next of kin.
Because if you can't talk to us and say, daughter's just at the store, she'll be back in 5 minutes, don't take me anywhere. If you can't tell us that, we can call your daughter or your son or your neighbor, get you to the hospital that you want, hopefully, all right, and give you the best care that we can, all right. So those are a couple things you can do this week. Check your addresses. Consider giving a key to either a trusted friend or neighbor, or checking out the lock boxes, updating information with the dispatch center, and you can call police or fire to do that as well, all right? And update your medical information that we may need if we come to your home, all right? So next month we're going to talk about falls and how to prevent them, all right? And falls happen all year long. We can talk about falls every month very easily, all right? There's different causes for falls, different things we can do about them. And when it comes to medications, you talk about prescription medications and how to handle them. Well, what about the side effects of the medications? All right? Are you taking medications that, oh, I know it's for my blood pressure, but what happens if I miss it? What happens if I take too much? All right? And medications can often play a part in falls. So anytime you have a change in medication, for the first 3 days, there's actually an increased risk of a fall happening until you find out how your body metabolizes the medication, what kind of side effects you might be feeling from it. So anytime you have a change in medication, just take those couple extra minutes to slow down a little bit, make sure you're getting your rest, your hydration, and that everything else is up to date. All right. Any questions on what kind of medical information? And you don't have to put your social security on here. A birth date is great. They're going to ask you social security question when you get to the hospital to register you. I do not ask for your social security, but your medical information is definitely good to know. And again, next of kin, if you have a DNR, okay? Does anybody not know what a DNR is? Okay. It basically tells us you don't want anything done if we come to your house and your heart stops. Right? There are different levels of the do not resuscitate orders. All right, there's different ways of keeping them, storing them, who to give them to. And it makes a difference on what we do when we come to your house. And basically, if we don't have that paper in our hand, we're treating you as if you want everything done for you. All right, so we can talk about different levels of DNR and what to do, what they mean, the difference between that and the living will. Because sometimes it's just not enough to tell your family, if something happens to me, I don't want you to do anything. Don't call the fire department. Because when your kids see you on the floor, and I get very emotional about this, when your kids see you on the floor, they're going to call for help. So you need to let them know what your wishes are, okay? And talk to your doctor. If you don't want to talk to your family because you're afraid of what they're going to think, you don't want to talk to your friends because you're embarrassed. Oh, Judy's doing so well. She gets around so great. I've never seen her lose her balance. Talk to your doctor. Talk to somebody here at the senior center, all right? There are so many resources out there, and one just walked in the room. All right? But Jill, Yvette, everybody here, you know them better than I do. I'm just getting to know them, and I'm so enjoying my time getting to know them a little bit more, and as well as Officer Perkins and Officer Roy Cunningham, who will be helping to develop this program a little bit further, as long as we know what you want. All right, we can't provide the services and the resources for you if we don't know what you want. All right, so you can call the fire department. I'm the only Michelle working there. All right, say, can you get a message to Michelle? And hopefully they will. If it's a paper message that goes in my mailbox, I may not see it for a little while. So email is the best way. You can certainly contact Kathy or Jill or Yvette and say, hey, can you get a hold of that girl from the fire department? I have a question. If you want to ask something and you don't want to ask right now, catch me out in the hall. We're in here. I'll stick around for a couple minutes in case there's somebody that doesn't want to say something in front of everybody else. All right, I was that kid, you know, what can I say? But I've also been a resident for a majority of my life here in Solon. We have great resources, great people. Very proud to be a member of the fire department here. I'm working with the police department here. It's great. We have wonderful police and fire chiefs that are very supportive of this program and want to provide whatever you need to keep you safe and independent. And maybe even have a little fun once in a while, okay? I think there's a walk with wine coming up.
Oh, yeah. Jen and I, we're walking with
like
walking
our
for
senior
wine.
center. I looked at the scheduled events for the next month, and I'm like, I want to do that. You know? So take advantage of that. Get out there. On things like this, of course, do what you can. Keep yourself comfortable. Watch out for your neighbors. If you know there's a power outage and they don't have that air conditioning, maybe give that extra phone call. Or ask somebody to check up on you. If you don't have that family or friend that's nearby that calls you every day to check up on you, all right? Let us know. I believe that somebody here from the senior center can make phone calls
Oh, my gosh.
and check.
For sure we can.
So whatever you need. So I will have these here. Again, they're small print, but you can look. Is there anybody here that's not computer savvy? You probably are all as computer savvy as I am at this point. But if not, we can help you. All right, we'll help you get those resources. So here's that. We really didn't talk too much about falls, but and we did, but we didn't. I didn't mention the fall screenings yet. How much time do we have? Do you have anything else right now?
No?
Okay.
No?
So one thing I'm going to talk about next month, we will be talking a lot about falls and why they happen and how to prevent them. And then we will also be doing a little bit of a fall risk screening. And a screening means we're just kind of getting a glimpse at who's at risk for falling. And should we refer you to your doctor and a therapist for an actual evaluation and therapy and a structured balance program? And I know they've tried some balance programs here in the past. I believe the comment that I received was that some members didn't like it because it was redundant and it focused on folks that have trouble walking. Who's at risk for falling? The people that have trouble walking, all right? So if you drove here and you walked all the way in here, and I don't see any canes or walkers. Oh, one cane, all right. But you got here, all right, and you're gonna go home. If you're 85 years old and you play badminton and you swim every day, and you know they're out there, right? Probably not much of a fall risk, all right? But if 2 years ago you weren't using a cane, or a year ago, or 6 months, now you've had a change, and what is that reason? Is that something that happened overnight? Is it something that happened gradually? Is it something that's going to progress any further where, wow, I can work on my balance a little bit now, right? The Olympic gymnasts, do you think they still work on their balance every day? Because if you don't use it, you lose it, right? But what if you're just not sure? So you're not that 85-year-old that plays racquetball and swims every day, and the other extreme is, well, you have that friend or that family member that doesn't get out of bed and doesn't go anywhere, all right? They're going to be very high to fall risk because of mobility, because of strength, and because balance is going to decline over time, all right? And other medical issues and other medications. Everything gets compounded, like we said. It's not one independent factor. It's everything all together. So one thing we can use a little bit as part of the screening is a simple 12 questions, all right? I'm going to leave these here with you if you want to take one home with you and kind of fill it out, kind of talk to your friends and your family about it. We'll also have them next month. And some of the questions are very simple. I have fallen in the last year, yes or no? I like this form because it actually gives you a little bit of a reason of why is that question important, all right? Because unfortunately, once you have one fall, you are at more risk to have another fall, especially if no intervention is taken, all right? So have you fallen? Are you worried about falling? Once we get fearful of falling, our steps might get a little bit shorter, right? Or we might stop going places. If you stop going places and you don't go see your family and friends and you don't go out to dinner, right? Do you get stronger? Right? The less you move, right, the weaker you get. And so you become more fearful of falling, and your risk keeps going from there. Medication to help you sleep, sensation in your feet. So anybody that has diabetes, right, you start to lose a little bit of sensation. We also have sensation in our joints that lets us know where we are. If you don't know where your feet are, right, if you're either looking down at the floor constantly, and now you're not aware of the rest of your surroundings, right, or your posture is going to change, and again, one thing leads to another. So each of these questions independently does not really mean a lot other than have you fallen in the last year. But if you answer yes to every question, all right, you probably don't even need a more in-depth screening. And I recommend you talk to your doctor or your family about getting a referral for a structured balance and physical therapy evaluation to work on that. All right? If you answer one or two questions, okay, that's fine. Maybe you just want to do a more in-depth screening, which will involve some getting up and moving and timing that we'll do. And you can see, if you're somewhere in the middle, come next month, find out more about falls and the screening process and what it involves, and see where we go from there. All right? If you have any doubts at any time that you think you need help with your balance and you're at risk for falls, please talk to your doctor, talk to your family member. You don't need me to tell you that you're at risk for a fall. All right? If you're really at a risk, you kind of know. All right? Unfortunately, I know my mom was ready to start a balance program, and of course, what happened last year? Everything got canceled. So now everything is backed up. So it's a process. We're not through it yet. We're still working on it. But there are some things that we can do in the meantime until those programs really get up and rolling again. So I'll leave this here with you. If you want to pick one up, great. If not, come back next month. And please bring a friend with you next month, okay? A friend, a neighbor, bring 2 friends, all right? Everybody is at risk for falling, and everybody can do something about that. And even if you want to, and if they're welcome to bring their family member, perhaps. So if you have a son or a daughter, and you want them to have the same information you're getting about what should I be doing at home a little bit differently, welcome to bring them as well. All right? Any questions? Covered it. Okay. And I can ramble for hours. Some things more important than others. So I'll do my best in the coming months to kind of stay on track. But I love talking to people, and I'm very passionate about things such as CPR and first aid and staying independent, because it means so much, to you to live on your own. And whether you have moved on to an independent living center or assisted living, as you progress, you still want to be as independent as you can for as long as you can. And I totally respect that and appreciate that and want to promote that as much as I can. All right. So we'll have all the handouts. We have the fall questions if you choose. We have information on those lock boxes. Okay. And some of the other lock boxes that we mentioned that have the codes again at the store. Those run anywhere between $15 and $30. This one's about $37.95. It has Lieutenant Joe's phone number and name at the fire department. Also information for the website on where those are. And I'll let you know about what I'm talking about here when we're done. And then the medical information forms. And again, there are numerous forms online that you can get bigger print, fill them out bigger print, or keep that visit summary from your last visit to the doctor. Keep that handy with your medications and update it maybe with your family member. Okay?
Can I just-
I think I'm gonna.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
That lockbox saved my dad's life. Because he lived in Euclid, and I live in Solon, and my sister lives in Bainbridge. And we had that set up, and his life alert went off. Rescue had to come, and of course couldn't get in the house. And we had the lockbox with the key. It was attached to the grill in the backyard. Don't tell anyone.
It's still locked.
Yeah, right. And that's how they got in the house and found him. And from that visit, he was okay. So that they're so worth it.
Yeah.
So worth it.
They are, absolutely.
Any last comments? Thank you so
Thank you all
much.
so much. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this was
Michelle,
so
thank you.
interesting.
Thank you for
Very
being
awesome
here.
job.
Looking forward to it.